Welcome to Gray Matters with Doc W. I'm your host, a real PhD psychologist, teacher, and mentor. This is my avatar to ensure my facial expressions don't bias our conversation. As family gatherings bring us together, we often face tricky, politically sensitive topics around the dinner table. That's where Gray Matters comes in, where red and blue blend into a thoughtful gray area. Our AI-generated discussions create a calm, respectful environment for discussing tough topics, ensuring progressive and conservative perspectives are heard. Today, we explore why science seems to change its mind, affecting personal beliefs, business decisions, and public policies. Joining us are Alicia, an environmental policy advisor with a progressive outlook, Tom, a small business owner with a conservative viewpoint, and Susan, a holistic health practitioner who is fairly skeptical. We aim for understanding and open dialogue, especially as families gather when heartfelt, sometimes heated discussions arise. Settle in as Alicia, Tom, and Susan share thoughts on societal, ethical, legal, and financial questions. At Gray Matters, real solutions come from hearing every side, because where red meets blue, using our gray matter matters most.
I'm so happy to see you both again. It feels like ages since we've all been together under one roof. How have you two been?
It's great to be here. I've been good, just juggling business stuff. The new regulations on energy usage are hitting small companies like mine pretty hard. Sometimes it feels like science is changing every other day, and I'm the one who has to keep up.
I'm doing well, too. My clients come in with so many questions, like, is this diet good or bad? Or, is this supplement actually helpful? They see one headline in the New York Times saying something is beneficial, then they see a study on Fox News claiming the opposite. It's confusing.
I understand the frustration. In my job, I review a lot of research on climate change and public health. People perceive it as science flip-flopping, but usually what's happening is that new data emerges. Scientists refine their conclusions as they learn more. For instance, research about greenhouse gas effects was more limited in the 1980s. But now there's so much more data, satellite imagery, long-term temperature trends, reinforcing the climate science.
I'm not against updating knowledge, but from a business standpoint, it gets very expensive when rules change. Take emission standards. The Environmental Protection Agency might tighten them. Then a few years later, there's a legal challenge in court. Then a new administration adjusts them again. My shop invests in new equipment. Then we hear that the regulations could be rolled back or replaced. It creates uncertainty.
And uncertainty can fuel skepticism. I see it with vaccinations. Early on, health authorities told us one thing about COVID-19. Then guidelines evolved as new studies were published. A lot of folks said, why didn't they just get it right the first time? But science is a process. I try to explain that to my clients, but I also understand why they'd feel skeptical when the advice changes.
Yes, the pandemic is a prime example. The CDC initially didn't push mask wearing because they had limited data and they worried about shortages for healthcare workers. Then more evidence came out about how masks reduce transmission, so guidelines shifted. It wasn't flip-flopping, it was an adjustment to better data.
But there are ethical and legal dimensions, too. Businesses were mandated to require masks, and that led to some conflicts. People had different views on personal freedom and public health. I read in the Wall Street Journal how small business owners got caught in the middle, trying to comply with local laws, but also not wanting to alienate customers.
And the skepticism only grows when people see big pharmaceutical or energy companies funding studies. They wonder if the research has biases. That's why I always say, follow the money. If the data is coming from a single source with a clear interest in a specific outcome, it raises questions.
That's why many reputable journals, like The Lancet or Science, require full disclosure of funding sources. Peer review is meant to catch blatant conflicts of interest. Plus, independent researchers often replicate studies to confirm findings. It's never perfect, though. We need more transparency so the public trusts the process.
Right. And on the financial side, when new studies lead to new regulations, like carbon taxes or stricter emissions standards, there can be major costs. It might reduce pollution, sure, but if the economic impact is huge, some communities can be devastated by job losses. That's why conservatives push back. It's not about denying science. It's about balancing the real-world consequences.
I see both sides. If we go too fast, businesses and regular folks get hit with major changes. If we go too slow, we might ignore important findings that could help protect our health or the environment. It's a tough balance.
Let's brainstorm some ways to bridge the gap. One idea is clear communication from scientists and policymakers. They could say, here's what we know now, and we'll update you if we learn more, rather than pretending the data is set in stone. That might reduce the feeling of being blindsided when guidelines change.
I like that. Another solution is phased implementation. If a new rule is coming, say stricter limits on industrial waste, give businesses a grace period. Provide incentives or tax breaks to help them adapt. So it's not just a sudden burden. That way, the science-based regulation can still move forward without crushing small companies.
And as a skeptic, I'd say support more independent research and repeat studies. I have heard that if it isn't new and surprising, it is hard to publish in a good journal. This seems at odds with inspiring confidence in those of us who are not scientists. If a wide range of sources, from different universities or international collaborations, arrives at similar conclusions, it's easier to trust. Maybe labeling studies as preliminary or well-established could help the public understand that not every finding is a definitive fact.
Yes, and encouraging news outlets to clearly highlight the level of certainty in a study would be a huge step forward. Sensational headlines often cause confusion. Articles titled, "Coffee causes cancer," or "Coffee cures cancer," are oversimplifying. We need more nuance.
We also shouldn't ignore the legal side. If a regulation is based on early uncertain science, it could face lawsuits. And if it's based on strong, consistent evidence, courts are more likely to uphold it. That suggests we need that extra layer of robust proof before sweeping policies are passed.
Absolutely. And with better transparency, maybe people won't jump straight to conspiracy theories. Right now, mistrust can breed wild ideas. Clear data, open communication, and sensible timelines for legal changes could really help.
I'm glad we're finding common ground. We may come at this with different perspectives, but we all value good science, stability, and fairness. It's about recognizing that science changes with evidence, not because it's flawed, but because it's constantly learning. Changing as we learn is a feature, not a bug.
I agree. Let's keep pushing for a process that respects business realities and moves us forward responsibly. Change is necessary at times, but it needs to be predictable enough that families and companies can adjust.
And let's stay open-minded. Skepticism has its place, but so does trust when the evidence is solid. Maybe we can all commit to following reputable sources, understanding how science evolves, and listening to each other without labeling each other as anti-science or out of touch. There are some places, like Ad Fontes Media, 1440, and Ground News, that help people understand the bias and truthfulness of the news sources they consume.
That's a deal. Thanks for this conversation. It's refreshing to just talk. I get so upset when things like this get heated.
I agree. Glad we could hash this out and skip the drama. Speaking of drama, I will certainly be upset if I miss Aunt Sherry's dessert. Who's with me?
Count me in. Alicia, if we get to the dessert table first, maybe we can create some drama. Go, go, go! Yes!
Come on!
Thanks for tuning in to Gray Matters with Doc W. Our AI-generated characters, Alicia, Tom, and Susan, shared their perspectives on why science seems to change its mind over time, shedding light on this complex topic without the heat that often comes with family debates. As we navigate the gray between red and blue, let's keep our focus on respectful, understanding communication, even when the facts evolve with new discoveries. If you'd like more details on how today's conversation was created, check out the text that accompanies this video. You'll find the original prompt we used to generate this dialogue, along with additional context on our process. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to explore next time here on Gray Matters. Be sure to catch our next episode, where we'll continue tackling challenging issues, equipping you with tools for meaningful, respectful dialogue with the ones you love. This is Doc W signing off. Remember, where red meets blue, using our gray matter matters most. Keep talking, keep listening, and keep building. We'll see you soon for another episode of Gray Matters.